Hi, and welcome back to this week's Parsha Shir on Sefer Maayan based Hashoeva. I'd like to share with you two insights that Rav Schwab has on this week's Parsha of Vayehi as we close out Sefer Bereshis this week. The first is on the story that Yaakov recounts to Yosef about the burial of his mother. Yaakov tells Yosef, "Ani bevoimi padan meisa alai Rachel be'eretz Canaan baderech be'od kivras eretz lavo Efrasa v'ayikpereh sham bederech Efras hi beis lachem." Yaakov tells Yosef that, by the way, your mother died along the way on our journey into the land of Canaan, and even before we actually entered the land, I buried her there along the way, Baderech, near the area of Ephrat, on the way to Beit Lechem. So he recalls to Yosef that the burial of Rachel happened outside the land of Canaan. And Rashi comments over here and tries to explain why Yaakov would be conveying this particular message now to Yosef. And he says that what was in Yaakov's mind at the moment was V'afal pi shani matriach alecha loholicheni likaber be'eretz Canaan v'lo kach asiti limecha. He says that maybe in Yaakov's mind he was worried. He was worried because he had just made Yosef take an oath that after Yaakov dies, Yosef would take his bones and bury them in the land of Canaan at great effort and expense. And Yaakov was worried that in the back of Yosef's mind, he wouldn't take this oath very seriously, because he would say to himself, hey, my father's asking me to take these bones all the way to Canaan. My father himself didn't do this for my mother. When my mother died, he buried her along the way, wherever they happened to find themselves, b'derech Efras. Why should I be matriach myself to bring his bones all the way to Canaan? He didn't do that for my mother. And so Yaakov goes into this story right now. And Rashi concludes that the reason why he shares this story now with Yosef is to convince him of the importance of burying Yaakov in the land of Canaan. And as Rashi continues to explain, Yaakov tries to justify to Yosef why he didn't add the extra effort to bury Rachel in the land of Canaan. And he says that there was a very purposeful reason for it. He wanted Rachel to be buried there because, as it says in Yirmiyahu, one day in the time of the Geula, in the time of Galus, first time of exile, the Jewish people will pass out of the land through this area. Time of the Geula, they will come back through this area. But all the while, Rachel will cry, and Rachel will mourn, and Rachel will daven for her children who went off into exile, and then greet them back into the land through that place. So she could have been buried in the land of Canaan. He would have given her that extra effort, but there was a purpose in burying her on the outskirts of the land, so that she would be the one to embrace her children as they left, and to greet them as they come back, and to daven for them all the while that they were in exile. So this is the story as Rashi presents it. Rav Schwab asks an interesting question. Amnam yikshe hemshech haksuvim. Shim ken mekom alel. Shehishbiu al akfur be'eretz Canaan v'lo kan achar amro Ephraim and Menasha kiruven v'Shimon Healy. Rav Schwab says, if according to Rashi, the whole reason why Yaakov shares this story is prompted because of the oath that he's forcing or asking Yosef to take to bury him in the land of Canaan, then this little story about the burial of Rachel belongs earlier in the Parsha, after the actual oath to bury him in the land of Canaan. Why does the Torah wait until after Yaakov gets sick, and after Yaakov calls Yosef to his bedside, and after Yaakov tells Yosef that his children, Ephraim and Menasha, will be Kiruven v'Shimon Ihuli, and he calls them over to give them the bracha, and then pauses. Before he gives them the bracha, he says, and by the way, I buried your mother on the way into Canaan and not in Canaan because of this reason. I wanted her to daven for her children in the time of Galus, in the time of Geula. Why does it come now? It should be connected to the earlier story of the burial and not to the brachos here to Ephraim and Menashe. Rav Schwab answers very interestingly. V'nira Ramaz lo Yaakov inyan Mashiach ben Yosef. Perhaps Yaakov, in the timing of the story, was hinting to the idea of Mashiach ben Yosef. We know that in the future there will be two Mashiachs that will come, two stages of the redemption of the Jewish people. Mashiach ben Yosef yofia mikodem veyehareg b'milchama. First, there will be the appearance of a figure called Mashiach ben Yosef, who will be killed in war. V'achar kach yavo Mashiach mishevet Yehuda, and then the Mashiach will come from the tribe of Yehuda, as explained by Chazal, the Gemara in Sukkah, and elsewhere. The Mashiach ben Yosef was a more of a political stage to the redemption, and Mashiach ben David, Mashiach from the tribe of Yehuda, would be the more spiritual, more complete stage of the redemption. So he says here, Mashiach ben Yosef yeh meshevet Ephraim, v'hainu dichtiv Ephraim bechorihu, ben yakir Ephraim. We know that Mashiach ben Yosef will come from the tribe of Ephraim, which we know from various psukim in Sefer Yirmiyahu. V'achar shehudia Yaakov li Yosef shel Ephraim mishpat habechora. So it's only after Yaakov gives word to Yosef that Ephraim will be treated as the Bechor, like when the pasuk says Ephraim u'Menasha ki Reuven v'Shimon iuli. It's paralleling Ephraim to Reuven and Menasha to Shimon, showing that just like Reuven was the Bechor, now Ephraim will gain the Bechor status in terms of the children of Yosef. So in that, Ramaz lo shamashiach sha'atid lamod mibnei Racha mishavet Ephraim shenachshav k'abechor. He was hinting to Yosef that the Mashiach would eventually come from their tribe, would actually come specifically from the lineage of Ephraim and not Menasha, because Ephraim is considered to be the Bechor in this case, even though biologically he's not the Bechor. Therefore, Yavo Koda Mashiach ben David Beis Halachmi. He will come, this Mashiach from the tribe of Yosef, from the lineage of Ephraim, will come before the onset of Mashiach ben David, who will come from Beis Lechem. Beis Lechem is the area of Yehuda, it's the area of David HaMelech. Ve'amar v'ani b'vavim mipadan me'salai racha bod kivaser lavo Efrasa ve'ekpereh sham b'derech Efras hi Beis Lechem. What Yaakov was conveying in the pasuk, in the order is, I buried Rachel in the area of Efras on the way to Beis Lechem. That I buried her there, because there is the spot where she's going to have to greet her children as they come back in the time of Geula, and the story of Geula is already embedded in this pasuk. The Geula is going to come from her lineage, from Ephraim, who's the Bechor, and I was on my way, derech Beis Lechem, on the way to Beis Lechem, meaning in the future there will also be a process that will pass through this place, but first will come Mashiach ben Yosef from her, which is in this place, on the way to getting to the stage of Beis Lechem, which is Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben Yehuda, from that area of Yehuda that will only come after. Bazeh pies Yaakov avinu es Yosef. And that's how he appeased Yosef, by telling him the story that there was a purpose for his mother's burial in that particular spot. If we understand that, says Rav Schwab, we understand why Yaakov delayed the story until this point, because if he had told him this story earlier, after Yosef takes the oath to bury Yaakov in the land of Canaan, he would have perhaps appeased him by explaining that there was a purpose for Rachel being there. But now, once he's been able to declare to Yosef, Ephraim and Menasha ki Reuven v'Shimon iuli, that Ephraim is the Bechor, Ephraim is going to be the progenitor of its own Mashiach, which will come from Rachel, come from that territory on the way to Beis Lechem. Now the story makes much more sense. It's a more well-rounded story. It's a more of a consolation to Yosef, more of an explanation to Yosef of what the intent of burial in that spot was, and therefore he waited to this point in the parsha to say that after he was already able to tell Yosef, Ephraim u'Menashe ki Reuven v'Shimon ihiuli. Second idea I wanted to share from Rav Schwab is from a little bit later, a couple of psukim later in the parsha. Pasuk says, Vayishlach Yisrael es yemino vayashet arosh Ephraim v'hu atzair v'esmolo arosh Menashe shikel es yadav ki Menashe habechor. Famous incident of the bracha that Yaakov gives to Menashe and Ephraim. He switches his hands. His right hand should have gone to the Bechor, which is Menashe, and his left hand to the younger one, which is Ephraim, but he switched his hands so that his right hand would be on the head of Ephraim, who's the younger one, and his left hand would be on the head of Menashe, who is the older one. So, lo hichlif makom habanim she'eh Ephraim b'yamino u'Menashe b'smolo, ela she'inicham Yaakov kasher shotam Yosef, kedei she'yishar Menashe b'yamino v'rak shikel es yadav, v'sam yad yamino al rosh Ephraim. Maayan Beit Hashoeva, Schwab explains that it seems from the psukim that Yaakov didn't ask Ephraim and Menashe to switch places. Right? Let's say Yosef brings them in. So Yaakov's sitting over here, and Yosef brings them in, and he puts Menashe on this side, because facing Yaakov, because he realized Yaakov's going to stretch his right hand and put it on Menashe. And he puts Ephraim on this side facing Yaakov, because he realized Yaakov's going to stretch out his left hand and put it on, he puts Menashe on this side because he knows Yaakov is going to stretch out his right hand and touch Menashe. And he puts Ephraim on this side because he knows he's going to stick out his left hand and put it on Ephraim. So Yosef puts them in the right position vis-a-vis the right and left hands of Yaakov. So from the Psukim, it doesn't seem like Yaakov says to the boys, hey boys, switch places so that Ephraim could be on my right and Menashe can be on my left. Instead, he keeps them in their position and he switches his hands. So Rashab says, why did he switch his hands as opposed to switching the position of the boys? Yosef had a very special quality, which is he is the epitome of the combination of spiritual and physical. Vayehi shaya moshel medini v'gam moshel berucho gadol b'Torah. He was both the political leader in Egypt. He has a certain level of political acumen and involvement in the world. He was also a great man of spirit, and he was able to control his all of his desires to rise very high spiritually. It's why we call him Yosef HaTzadik. Aval bebanav nischalku hanyanim sheikar tafkido shemenashe ayalos mumun abes Yosef ve'Ephraim ayalomod Torah mipi Yaakov Avinu. But this fusion of qualities that Yosef had actually becomes split in his children a little bit more, so that Ephraim is the one who learns Torah with Yaakov, and Menashe is the one who's politically active, as we know from the earlier Psukim and from the Mamarei Chazal that go with them. V'hiktim Yaakov es Ephraim leMenashe lahoras al adifus koach haTorah al shar hamalos l'rabos malah ha'anhaga ve'amlucha. If we understand these qualities, we understand now why Yaakov puts his right hand on Menashe, who's the younger son, why he gives him the preferred Bechor status, in order to show that Torah is always supreme. That Torah and worldliness are two important factors, but if he's going to put his right hand on one, he's going to put his right hand on the quality of Torah. Aval heyos sheklal Yisrael tzrichim l'shneim Hein lahashofet v'amanhig asher yetze lifneim asher yavo lifneim ve'hein l'sar haTorah. But Yaakov doesn't want to give over the impression that despite the fact that Torah and Ephraim are more important, that Menashe is not important. He never wants to convey that, because after all, the Jewish people need both kinds of qualities. They need both kinds of leaders. They need the political leader and they need the religious leader. Al kein lo dacha Yaakov es Menashe legamrei ma'bechora ela sheratzu litzaref beizatunos biyachad v'lachein shikel es yadav. He says it's for this reason that Yaakov wanted to ensure Menashe would realize that he's also important, that he also has a bit of a Bechor status. Yaakov had to convey that there's more importance to Torah. He had to put his right hand on Ephraim. But he didn't want Menashe to feel totally separated from that Bechor, totally separated from that leadership quality, because both Menashe and Ephraim had to be important leaders. They had to be critical factors in the future leadership of the Jewish people. And therefore, instead of switching the boys' positions, shikel es yadav, he switches his own hands, which the Targum Onkelos translates as, he achkimu Achkiminun liyadohi. He smartened his hands, so to speak. He made a smart move with his hands. What does that mean? Pirush shesam zroa hayemini al zroa hasmoli. Ubihitstarfam biyachad nasu shnei hanaarim biyachad lebchinas Yosef hakolol beis ha'inyanim v'lachein vayivarach es Yosef. What he did was very brilliant. He brilliantly crafted, he smartly crafted and switched his hands. Instead of switching the boys, what he does is he switches his hands. And when he switched his hands, his arms locked. His arms touched each other. And by his arms touching each other, he was actually fusing the right hand and the left hand, fusing Menashe and Ephraim into one fulcrum that includes both. And by doing that, he was conveying to them that you both have leadership status. You both have Bechor status. Even though the Bechor status of Ephraim is slightly elevated because he has my right hand, you, Menashe, through my left hand, are connected to that right hand because of the fulcrum of my arms. And what he was conveying to us beyond that moment is that there is critical importance to the fusion, to the joining, to the fulcrum of these two worlds, of worldliness and of spirituality, of physical and spiritual, of Torah and Mada, Torah and Derech Eretz, of the political qualities of Menashe and the Torah qualities of Ephraim. They have to be brought together. Both are important strands of leadership and different qualities that we have, but the best status of the Jewish people comes when the two are combined together and the two are interlocked, which was the way it was with Yosef, not as much in terms of his children, Menashe and Ephraim. And therefore, when he blesses them, it says, Vayivarach es Yosef. It doesn't say he blessed Menashe and Ephraim, it says blessed Yosef. Because in the moment when he switches his hands and they become locked, and Torah and worldliness come together in that fulcrum, they've reached the Yosef status, that combined, fused status once again, and therefore Yaakov introduces the bracha as a bracha not to Menasha and Ephraim, but to Yosef, because in that moment Menasha and Ephraim truly came together to regain that fused status of Yosef, their father. Shabbat Shalom.